And good morning, basketball fans. Welcome to another edition of the Upstate Hoops podcast on FingerLakes1.tv. I'm Jim Sinacropia along with Matt Burke, and today we'll be joined by Mynderse girls varsity basketball coach Jerry Anderson and his son Devin Anderson, sophomore guard on the boys varsity team at Mynderse. So we'll talk about all the action on the court this week as league play got back underway, and we'll reveal our girls Super 6 and our FL1 Sports Power Ranking straight ahead on the Upstate Hoops podcast. All right, big upset this week. Penn Yan defeats Pelmac, which makes things crazy in the East now because now there's Mynderse and Newark tied for first, and Palmyra and Penn Yan just one game back. At Burke, we thought that was going to be a three-team race, but all of a sudden, it's a four-team race now.
Yeah, no doubt, and Mynderse still has to play Penn Yan twice. They got a game with them coming up Tuesday, so nothing for granted in the Finger Lakes East. We've talked about all year long how from top to bottom, any team can beat any team in that league, and it's kind of playing out that way as of late.
Well, we'll talk all about that game, all the standings in the Wayne Finger Lakes leagues, and we'll take a look at some of the big games coming up this week. We'll give you our players of the week, our updated rankings. Big show coming up on a Sunday morning, but first I'd like to welcome back into the studio Mynderse girls varsity head coach Jerry Anderson, and for the first time, sophomore guard Devin Anderson. How you doing, fellas?
Doing great. Thanks for having us.
You usually get up this early, Devin, on a Sunday morning?
No, not usually.
Well, I'm glad you made the effort. You guys were both at the Dome last night for the Syracuse game too, huh?
I was.
You didn't take him? You made him stay home and shoot, do the Mikan drill all night or something?
That's right.
So, Devin, I wanted to ask you right off the bat. You have a coach, Nick Ciotti, varsity boys basketball, and you got a lot of coaches there too. You got Pat Prain, Mike Alessio, the Johnsons, big staff there. And when you go home, how much does your dad, who's a girls varsity coach, and how much does he coach you? Like, how much does he get on you?
He gets on me a lot.
Really?
He usually watch my games after, and he always tells me what I need to work on and stuff I do bad or do wrong.
Well, it's a great asset to you to have coaching, like that at home. So I was just wondering, because a lot of coaches, like I wonder how much Jim Boeheim coaches his son, who plays in JD varsity. I wonder how much he's involved, behind the scenes at home with something like that. So something interesting to think of. You got a philosophy on that, Jerry, or anything, or just take it as it comes?
A little bit, right? I really wait for him to come to me now versus trying to force my feedback on him. I went through that a little bit with Brittany, right? And it doesn't work well when they don't want to hear that feedback. So generally he's coming to me, and
right.
He wants to watch the game together and go over things. So,
and I think one thing with Devin is that he's pretty much, from what I see, he's a basketball junkie. He loves to play. He's really focused on it. We play a lot in the off season, and he's at the gym with us playing. Him and Kellen Carrer come and play with us a lot. He does a lot of training, and a lot of kids. He's down to one sport, not playing the other sports now. Which a lot of times kids say, "Oh, I'm going to do this and do that in the off season," and they sit around. But he is a kid who gets in the gym. He puts the work in the off season, and I think it's starting to pay off for you. Having only a sophomore, having a good year this year, and the team doing really well. So, I think he's a kid who wants that feedback and enjoys that.
Well, he's one of two sophomores brought up on this team at the start of the year. Kellen Carrer, Devin Anderson, both key contributors, both logging a lot of minutes. And, Devin, I think the thing I like most about watching you play is, first of all, the effort that you put in. You're the first guy to the floor. In also pretty versatile, you can do a lot of different things. He almost reminds me, Burke, and maybe I'm wrong, a little bit like Derek Farah for Lions, the way he was, doing a lot of the dirty work, just the hustle stuff, in between all the other stuff he's doing. So, and with a little bit of an offensive game too. So I don't know. What do you view your role on this team as a sophomore is?
Think of me as shooter, mainly a shooter right now.
That's what about all this stuff where you're diving on the floor and saving balls and grabbing rebounds against guys that are taller than you? Do you take any pride in that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I take a lot of pride in that. Yeah.
Will coach say if somebody's getting hot in the other team, when we say you got to go in and stop him? Think of your role as a defensive stopper sometimes.
Not always, but he has me do that sometimes.
Good.
Well, speaking about roles, I think that's one of the things with this Mynderse team. A lot of talent, obviously off to a great start. But I still think that it seems like certain guys on that team are trying to find their roles still. Devin Anderson's played great at point guard, I think, this year. He's been a source of a lot of points. And the big guys in between are down low. Kafol and Mean, they seem to kind of know their roles. But it's all the guys in the middle, I think. It feels like they're kind of, either trading off one game or another. One guy's going to do the scoring. Are you guys comfortable deferring to each other? Who's having the hot hand? I don't know. Is there one of those, maybe the upperclassmen guys like Jake Jones? Do you look to him to do the scoring, or is it just kind of take it game by game?
Just take it game by game. Usually, whoever has a hot hand, we try to get him the ball.
Because there's been a lot of different games where you've gotten hot from long range, and there's been, Jake Jones had 7 threes that one game against early college, I think. And Kellen, also, I guess it's a luxury to have different guys be able to have off nights and have someone else pick them up, I guess. So now you're the coach of the girls team, Jerry. How many of the boys' games do you actually get to see live?
Well, fortunately, we've been able to do a number of boy-girl doubleheaders, so that's helped out. And I'd say I've probably seen half the games live, and then we'll those games that I don't get to see, we'll watch that same night or the next day. So it's been pretty fortunate, for being able to catch the majority of the games.
I love the boys-girls doubleheaders, but. Some guys don't like it. They'd rather see the JV team. And for the coaching staff, I guess it's a little easier when the JV team's on site. But great atmosphere in Waterloo, Burke, for the game that you called with Michael Alessio and Harold Weber. And you're going to get bigger crowds like that for these girls-boys doubleheaders. I'd like to see more girls-boys doubleheaders.
Yeah, it's obviously nice for us in that we're able to do two games in one night. One setup, one breakdown. But and it's nice. I think it draws a little bit more attention. Just having both varsity team plays. But I would think the downfalls would be that having the JVs play another night, maybe not as many people there for the JV game, obviously, and then the coaches got to be at 2 games. They got to practice, go to a game. Yeah. It's a lot of time on the coaches, but it is nice, and obviously in their situation it works out well. As obviously Jerry can watch Devin play, but I like those, and hopefully they'll continue to do 2-3 a year.
Well, we're going to talk a lot more about Mynderse and the whole Finger Lakes East coming up, but let's shift gears and talk about your girls team, Jerry. First of all, feel really bad for poor Heidi Miller, who had a stress fracture. She's going to miss some time. Just a sophomore, so it's she'll be back. But obviously, one of the better players in all the Wayne Finger Lakes is just a sophomore. When did you find out about it, and what did you tell your team after? You learned that she was going to miss the balance of the regular season at least, right?
Yeah. So this is something that's been kind of a lingering injury for her. So she's played most of the year with it, and some time off over the break. We thought it was going to kind of relieve itself from a pain standpoint, and it didn't. So doing everyone's due diligence and getting it checked out, it revealed with the MRI that there was something going on there. So it's in her best interest long term, right, to get this taken care of now.
Sure.
So as far as breaking it to the team, that's something that we did. I'd say right after coming back from Christmas break.
And did you, how do you break it to them? She's a leading scorer. She's a leading rebounder. She's the leading block shots. She was kind of the leader in every statistical category. And so now you got to head back into the second half of Finger Lakes East play, toughest girls league around, and without that cog, what do you tell your team to get them ready?
Well, we always talk about adversity, right? So this is just some more adversity that you face, and it's the next girl up situation, right? So there's basically 32 minutes of game time available now up for grabs for somebody to step forward to take. So
right.
You're never going to replace a Heidi Miller ever. So it's really redefining your team, what you're going to do for the balance of the year, and selecting that direction and just improving game in and game out. So
that's what I think. The girls got to look at it as an opportunity. The other girls on the team, and say, hey, look, there's some points out there for me to go get. There's some minutes for me to get, some rebounds, and in the 2 games without her, you guys played pretty good. You played Geneva pretty tight, and a 4-point loss, a game that I believe you had to lead in the fourth quarter. Came out and got a big game from Megan Tilton, hit a bunch of threes, and Maddie Hillmeyer I thought played really good for you the other night. But I think you got a good group. You got a good group of seniors, and I know you're really challenging those seniors to step up in her absence.
Absolutely, the intensity's there. So it's really a mental focus and really believing in themselves, not waiting for Heidi to do something, because Heidi's not there to do it.
Right. On Friday night, you guys played well against Waterloo and went into their gym and got a win. And, boy, a lot of 3-pointers flying. Megan Tilton had 6, I think.
She had 6.
And some other girls were throwing them in. It was an impressive long-range display. And this was a case, Burke, where I thought the girls' game was more entertaining than the boys' game later that night.
Yeah, Waterloo, I think, Mynderse did a good job of taking what Waterloo gave them. They pretty much played 2-3 zone the whole game from what I could see, and they didn't, exactly adjust at all during the game. And Mynderse had a lot of good looks, and I think some of those shots that Megan missed, usually you would expect her to even make maybe a couple more. Even she, I don't know how, she probably had 10, 12 attempts at least, 13 attempts, yeah. And Mynderse did a good job of taking what was available. Like I said, I thought Maddie Hillmeyer did a nice job. She read a couple passing lanes real well, got some steals, got some layups, knocked down some threes. Hannah Brown-Trice came on and hit some shots for you.
Yeah,
she got off to
mid-range game for her.
Got off to a little bit of a slow start, but she was hitting her mid-range jumpers, which I know you talked about that she likes to shoot. So, you got a lot of athletes, and I think you do a very good job. They're well coached. They know what they're doing out there. It's just a matter of going out and executing.
Do you think that with the loss of that inside presence that you're going to rely more on the 3 going forward, that it's going to be almost like Syracuse kind of relies on it with their lack of inside presence? You still have Megan Mean inside, and you got some, but there was a lot of 3s against Waterloo.
I think the dynamics of the team changes. Right, we were a little more geared toward a half-court set. Now we're probably going to run a little more and look to take that first best shot, and we still rebound the ball well at the offensive end. So I'm betting that we probably had 15 to 20 offensive rebounds Friday night. So while some of those shots look quick, we're in good rebounding position to get an offensive putback or set back up and go at it from a half-court set. So I do expect probably a little more perimeter game. Maybe even the Jim Boeheim philosophy, right? If we make shots, we're going to win.
That's right.
Right? If we don't, it's going to be a long year.
Yeah.
How, I know it's almost been Mynder's MO lately is that you kind of get beat up in the league, and, obviously you're playing a lot of bigger schools. Is it tough to keep the girls focused on, we're taking some lumps now, but look at the big picture of sectionals? Because, even when Brittany played, I think they had 2 or 3 wins and they won the sectional title. A couple years ago, you guys got beat up in the league, went to the finals, and lost to Avon. Last year, you made a run, won sectionals and went on all the way on to the regional to play a Buffalo team. Yeah. Is that something that that you get tired of getting beat up in the league, and how do you keep the girls up is it like a new season when sectional starts?
Yeah, it becomes challenging, especially when last year's team was fairly successful, right? We were 13-7 going into postseason, so. We had some new girls into the program last year, so they weren't a part of those 3-win teams, 5-win teams, and we got a couple of more girls that are in this year. So there's a little more effort in keeping them on the positive side, but we reinforce every day that hey, that you've got a 20-game scrimmage or 20-game schedule to scrimmage to get ready for sectionals. So ultimately, everybody knows what their goal is, right? We look at the wall every day in practice. There's no league titles up there, so their goal is to get their name up on the wall again as a sectional champ.
And so in your third year as head coach, you got 2 sectional titles and 1 sectional final appearance, right?
So we have 1 sectional title, 1 final loss, and this will be my third, yeah.
Oh, this is your third year. So the
third,
sectional title won 3 years ago.
That was with Coach Best in his last year. Yep.
Man, okay.
How about you guys, Devin? You guys, I know you look up at that wall. Your dad obviously played for a state championship team. Is that it's been, probably 3 years now since Mynderse has played in the Blue Cross, I think, 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Is that something you guys talk about, is getting up to the Blue Cross and, hanging another banner up?
We talk about that almost every practice.
Okay.
It's our number 1 goal.
Because, and I know I'm sure your dad's made you watch a lot of his old tapes and stuff like that, right? So, and obviously we played together, and it is special. And, you're a sophomore, and, we took our lumps. We lost 2 finals, and then we were able to put it together and win one. But is that you and your friends, talk about playing the Blue Cross, and all that's talked about a lot?
Yeah, we had talked about a lot.
I think they've even done some reminiscing with the 92 YouTube video. That was a frequent hit on that.
Yeah, that's the whole game video up as well, or is it just the 92 Mynderse State Championship? Burke, Jerry are both on that team.
Yeah, I think what Jerry's referring to is when our team went in the Hall of Fame, Mynderse Hall of Fame, they put together, Mr. Novak put together a nice highlight reel from the season.
Set to one shining moment.
And it's set to a couple different things, but and then that was put on YouTube.
So that's out there, folks, if you want to go take a look. I think Dave Barnick watched that about 850 times because he loves that 92 team,
Yeah, and Dave was... when we first started doing Finger Lakes 1 basketball coverage, it was nice to hook back up with him because a lot of our games he's dubbed in on the radio. Yeah. So, it brings back a lot of memories, and, Dave was always great to us.
And amazingly, Burke, just, to tell a story about it, he wrote you a letter, after you guys won, and said what a great team it was and how much he enjoyed watching you play, et cetera, et cetera. You saved that 30, how many years? I don't know how many years.
It's 25, almost 25 years.
25 years later, you guys are calling a game together here on FO1 Sports, and you bring that letter to him, and that obviously meant a lot to Dave. He was really touched that you would save that letter that he sent 25 years ago.
Yeah, Dave, he was as much a part of, I think at WSFW was probably at 90% of our games. I feel like it seems like every game was on there, and it was fun. He had some great calls then, and it's fun working with him now.
Well, that's a nice trip down memory lane, but let's look at more recent history. Let's take a look at the last week of action, and let's kick it off with the Finger Lakes East. I'm not going to read through all the results anymore, Burke. We post them every night on Finger Lakes 1, but I do want to talk about a few of these games that happened this week. First one, and both of them involve in Penn Yan. Penn Yan goes to Hornell, or Hornell goes to Penn Yan. Penn Yan escapes with a 63-61 victory. Penn Yan's been resurgent behind the play of Sean Emerson. He had 17 points in that game. And Hornell number 1 in Class B1 rankings. Then Penn Yan goes and plays Pelmac. And as we mentioned, Burke, there's a 3-way tie in the loss column atop the Finger Lakes East. Pelmac, Mynderse, and Newark. And we thought that's going to be the race. As a matter of fact, 2 weeks ago, we had Penn Yan right out of the top 10 power rankings. Penn Yan defeats Pelmac. Pelmac came to Penn Yan on Friday night, and it was a little bit of a shocker. I guess anybody that's watched Penn Yan, though, shouldn't be shocked, but a 62-58 win. Emerson had 23 points. Dylan Stape had 13. Desmond Batten had 13. Cade Kerbo, 10. And for Pelmac, Devon McLean had 22 and Holden Noor had 13. But now all of a sudden, Burke, if we pull up the Finger Lakes East standings, we got a four-way race, and Wayne even trying to get back into it is playing better. But how about the East?
Yeah, it's what we talked about all year. We knew Mynderse, Newark, Palmac were going to be towards the top of the league, and Mid Lakes has kind of fallen off after they've lost 4 league games in a row after starting off 2-0. So they've kind of fallen down. In Geneva, they've had some suspensions and just really haven't put it together yet. And obviously Waterloo's still struggling in the league. But, those top 4 or 5 teams, it's going to be competitive. And, every night you got to come to play. And, I think the way Penn Yan's playing now, that makes that game Tuesday coming up with Mynderse that much bigger. And just the way that it's kind of played out, we've already played Geneva twice. We've got to play Penn Yan.
The home teams won all these. That's the thing. Whoever wins on the road is going to win the league.
Yeah, and Mynderse, we still got to go to, we got Penn Yan at home. We got to go to Penn Yan. We got to go to Newark. Obviously, we got Palmac at home again. Got to go to Wayne, which, obviously you never know what's going to happen up there.
You and Harrington are calling the Mynderse Newark game in Newark, and that'll be an opportunity for Mynderse to pick up one of those road wins. Whoever wins the road, whoever protect home, everybody's protected home. Whoever's going to go on the road and get the win, probably going to end up winning the league title in the East. So Penn Yan also this week beat Marcus Whitman 57-40, and so big week for Penn Yan. Really, really getting hot. And some other games in the East, we talked about the Mynderse Waterloo game. Actually, we talked about the girls' Mynderse Waterloo game. But Mynderse, no problem there, 62-53. I will say this, though, Burke, about Mynderse. In that game and the Geneva game this week, where they escaped with a 14-point victory. But the Waterloo game in particular, it seems like that was going to be a 20-point win, 25-point win. And they let them hang around, and it's inside. I think it was 7-8 points. Inside 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's Mynderse. They don't put teams away. I think that's one thing that I've noticed this year. They get out to these 10, 15-point leads. A lot of times, let teams hang around a little bit too much. That luckily they haven't really been hurt too much by that so far, but obviously you'd like to see them once they get that 10-point lead early in the first half is just put a team away and come out with a 20-point victory. And I think that's something they need to work on, is just not letting these teams hang around and not feel comfortable with a 10-point lead and push that lead up to 15-20 and keep it there.
Why do you think that is, Devin? That you guys seem to not put you getting all the wins. You win a lot of close games, which is a great characteristic of a great team. But you've had opportunities like in Waterloo to extend that 15-point lead to 25, but it seems like it goes the other way and you just let them hang around. Any idea why? Any ideas?
Nah, I don't know why. But we've talked about that at practice, how we got to fix that and work on it. Talk about it a lot.
And any what would you do if you were coaching the boys varsity? How would you handle that situation? What do you do when you get up by 12 on a team and you feel like you can put them away?
We've had those same situations over the years, right? And that's something that we always bring up to the players about putting teams away. You let a team hang around with you, right? And, they think they can play with you. If they can play with you, then they think they can beat you. So, that's something that my coaching staff is constantly emphasizing throughout the game, as well as, in timeouts. So, a lot of it, some of it is natural. You relax. You start to relax a little bit. You exhale on the defensive end. You give somebody a little bit of space. Waterloo hit I think 2 or 3 threes.
Jarrett Benedict's hit a couple.
Yeah, I think they banked a 3 in. There were some shots there that were even contested that they made. So. Yeah. But they got to have that killer instinct, right? You get an opponent down and you keep them down. So
because the fear is that you build a 12, 15-point lead in a sectional game, and all of a sudden when things start going the wrong way in that situation, it really can start to snowball. And next thing you know, your season's over. So when you get a team on the ropes, you like to, put the hammer down. Yeah,
one of the other things is momentum, right? The game flow. And I've done it as a coach. You try to slow the game flow down, shorten the game. And that sometimes takes you out of your flow. Which is one of the reasons why I hate slowing a game down.
Right. Yeah, especially it seems you built that lead, just keep doing what you're doing, right? But sometimes it's a smart thing to do. So let's kick it over to the West, and I'm happy to report, Burke, that Joe Paisnak has turned around the program in Romulus as they pick up their first win in 74 tries. 74 tries. Since we've started live webcasting games 4 years ago, Romulus has never won until, Friday night when they beat HAC 44-40. I believe it was. There it is, 44-40. Kyle Bennett, 15 points, 13 rebounds. Mauricio Mercedes Rivera, 10 points, 12 rebounds. Bregan Pasamorte, 6 points and 12 rebounds. So congratulations, Joe Paisnak. That's a great win. That's a great win. When you don't win for 74 and you win one, that's a great win, right?
No doubt. I think Coach Paisnak and Romulus will take anyone they can get at this point. They had the fiasco where they combined with South Seneca, and that didn't go as planned. And I just think they haven't really been able to recover since. I know Coach Paisnak's working hard with those kids, and congratulations to them, obviously. And that's a long time not to win a game, and maybe they can build some momentum from here.
Well, first thing you got to do to turn things around is win a game when you lose 74. So, and guess who's coming to town to Romulus on Monday or Tuesday?
South Seneca?
No, Marion.
Oh, okay.
Winless in the Wayne County League, so maybe a streak, potential for a streak starting here for Romulus. So, congratulations, Coach Paisnak, the rest of the Warriors, and the whole Romulus Warrior basketball community. It's good to get a win, without a doubt. So let's take a look at those West standings, where this is another interesting league race. Bloomfield drops one at home to Naples in overtime. Naples makes a last-second layup to secure the 1-point win. So you got Dundee, Naples. That's how it's been the past couple of years. Bloomfield has been down for a year or two. They're obviously back in contention here. We saw Naples play this week against South Seneca in the Jack Guyton Arena. Andrew Fleischman had 6 threes. They look very impressive. But as a whole, this West, when we release our power rankings at the end of the show, there's a big debate if any of these teams belong in the top 10.
Yeah, I haven't seen many of these teams play. I know Whitman's a B school playing down, and they're doing okay over there. But Naples isn't what they were last year. Obviously, a lot of losses there, and I think the league in general might be down a little bit.
Competitive though at the top, boy.
Sure, and I think that could be said. There's no, even in the Finger Lakes East, there's no as good as Newark was last year. I don't think we have a team that is that good this year. Maybe even in the East, or a Lions and Red Creek and Wayne County even, but very competitive leagues this year.
And I'm looking at. Naples is a D1. They got a chance to make a run in sectionals. Dundee, C2, is that right? Or C?
Dundee's, I think they're C2.
Yeah. So you might see potential for some postseason runs there, but right now focused on the league race and seeing how that plays out. Dundee and Naples are playing coming up here. Not this week, I don't think, but perhaps the week after, and that's going to be a big one in the West. Give you some of the results from the West this week. Honeoye lost to Dundee 74-68 and Honeoye's much improved. Jordan Conyers at 18 for Dundee, Bobby Strait at 14, Jake Saladay at 19 for the Bulldogs. Naples defeated South Seneca 63-49, a game that was on FL1 Sports. And we got here, Red Jacket picked up a win against HAC. Bloomfield beat Romulus 68-48. Marcus Whitman beat Red Jacket badly, and probably the best game Whitman's had this year. They've been a little disappointing after last year's semifinal run. They got most of that team back, especially the two big guys. Well, they beat Red Jacket 88-47. And Honeoye then beat South Seneca. South Seneca played them tough, though, 49-43 in Honeoye. Lincoln Backman Lowe had 17 points there. John Marble had 11.6 rebounds. So moving things over to the West, where the only undefeated team in the Wayne Finger Lakes resides, North Rose Wolcott. They played Sodus this week, beat them 61-40, behind 17 points from Garrett Hoyt. And they also beat Marion pretty badly, 74-32 this week. Perhaps the game of the week in Wayne County, though, was Clyde Savannah and Red Creek. Red Creek going to Clyde. Clyde comes out with a 57-53 win after outscoring Red Creek 19-9 in the fourth quarter, taking the lead on a late Nate Paddock three-pointer. For Red Creek that game, it was Big Willie Meyer with 20 points, Nick Klein with 15, and for Clyde, Derek Chance 11 points, 8 assists, and Nate Paddock had 11, Jared Faneuil 9 points and 8 assists. So 2 guys with 8 assists for Clyde, and Clyde's really been playing good, as evidenced by the fact that they beat Mynderse just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, Clyde, obviously the big win over Mynderse for him, and, and 2 really big comeback fourth quarter wins. They're down double digits to Lions in the fourth quarter and came back to win, and, down 9 to Red Creek, and came back for that win as well.
And they also put up 95 points on Marion this week. So we were coming down on ER for scoring 100 against Marion. Clyde gave it a run too. Call it the dogs, maybe,
Yeah, you never know how the game necessarily played out, but that's a lopsided win, obviously.
Big win for Lions, who's trying to kind of get back into the winning form. They beat Williamson pretty handily, 76-43. Williamson will improve this year, and I know his poor start that Lions has had with all the losses they've endured, that Coach Young was a little nervous about that one, but they handled him pretty easily, and that's another game for Minders. They're going to have to go at the Atwood to face Lions later this month in a game that I think maybe you and I or me and Corsi are calling, but always looking forward to that. So glad to see Lions playing well. And the biggest win of the week for Lions, probably 47-43 win at Bloomfield, which is another reason, Burke, why I tend to think that the West maybe isn't quite as good. Bloomfield loses in overtime to Naples, and Lions is in second to last place in Wayne County, and they come out of their gym in Bloomfield with a 47-43 win.
Yeah, it's tough in these crossovers, obviously, to see exactly what would happen. But on any given night, especially when teams are unfamiliar with each other, Lions going to Bloomfield, I don't think that's too big of a shocker, really.
Justice Smith knocks home 2 key free throws as a freshman to seal the game with just seconds remaining there, extending the lead from 2 to 4. So we're big fans of Justice Smith because he's got a great name and he's just a freshman. So we can ride that one for 4 years here on the podcast. So take a look at those Wayne County standings. Clyde going to get another shot at North Rose. ER is going to get another shot at North Rose. ER gets to have them in their gym. But the thing about North Rose Wolcott, Burke, is I don't see any extracurricular activity from these kids after making shots. Everyone knows their role. They rely on each other. I mean, a really great team, and a team that's in Mynderse sectional classification too. So that's something that we're kind of keeping our fingers crossed. We might see them get to play. Yeah,
we've talked about them on every podcast we've done, and we've seen them play a couple times. I know you went up and watched them play against ER. I think that maybe what separates them from some of the other teams is they're seniors. They played together for a long time. They do everything the right way. They don't get nervous. I just think they have a lot of confidence in themselves right now, and they take the right approach to the game.
So. Still a chance for ER Clyde to get in there, but North Rose Wolcott definitely top team in our power rankings that we'll release later in the show. Only undefeated team in the Wayne Finger Lakes, and just playing great. Let's see what else we got here in Wayne County. Devin, you guys played Clyde twice. You're playing Lions later this week. Do you think that those crossover games against Wayne County teams are just as difficult as playing some of the top teams in the East, or do you guys really feel like you dropped the ball against Clyde and should have won that game easily, like you did the first time around?
I think we should have won that game as easily. We didn't play as good as we should have, but in the first quarter we played horrible.
Yeah, I dug a big hole and then came back, which had to be great.
I think that just speaks to, none of these teams are good enough where they can just show up and win. Obviously, right. Clyde's a pretty good team, and and they showed up and played hard, and I think Minders got what they deserved that night. especially, I think you guys were still on break for the first quarter, 25-8. Battled back, took the lead. But, these kids, they're all decent teams, and, that's why you play the games.
Well, we got our players of the week to get to. We've got our girls Super 6, and we got our updated power rankings, and also some of the big games coming up this week to get to here for the second half hour of the Upstate Hoops podcast. The Upstate Hoops podcast and all of our coverage of Wayne Finger Lakes High School basketball is brought to you thanks to the support of Generations Bank, with locations in Auburn, Farmington, Geneva, Phelps, Seneca Falls, Union Springs, and Waterloo. Check out their mobile banking app and visit them online at mygenbank.com. And by FLCC, thinking about life after high school, get your degree at Finger Lakes Community College. And by Dr. Rod Littlejohn, delivering over 30 years of smiles with style. So, Burke, players of the week, who do you got this week?
Where are they?
You don't remember who you sent me over?
No.
Well, Burke, your player of the week is Sean Emerson, Penn Yan.
Sounds good to me.
17 points against Hornell, 23 points versus Belmac. Led the way for them in two big Class B1 wins. So, great week for Emerson, great week for the Mustangs. I went with, I just had to do it, Kyle Bennett of Romulus, 15 points, 13 rebounds. The school's first, he was their leader in points and rebounds in their first win in 74 games. Kyle Bennett of the Romulus Warriors, my player of the week. So, congratulations, Kyle and Sean. Emerson's pretty active on Twitter, too, Burke. After every game, he's like, who's next? He's really confident. And really, I think that's kind of what the Penn Yan team needs, is some confidence to say, yeah, we belong at the top of the East. They haven't been there.
It's been a little bit. And, those kids, a lot of them are successful, and, they had a good football team. They obviously have a tremendous lacrosse program. So, they got kids who know how to win, obviously, and they're going to be, they're going to come to play every night. And, right now, obviously a huge week for Emerson and that whole team, and they're going to look to continue that Tuesday night at Mynderse.
All right, let's get to this week's rankings, and maybe we can have some discussion here, starting with the girls' Super 6. Mid-Lakes dropped out of the top 6 after a pair of losses to Pelmac and Wayne this week. They also dropped to 5th in the Finger Lakes East standings. They're at 3-3 in the league. So, also receiving votes in this week's poll, but not making the top 6. You got Mid-Lakes, Bloomfield. They lost to Mid-Lakes this week. Romulus and Mid-Lakes, Romulus and Bloomfield are both 5-1 in the Finger Lakes West. And Newark, currently in 4th place in the Finger Lakes East, but losers of 3 of their last 4, including a loss to Geneva Friday night and a loss to South Seneca on December 29th in Victor. So South Seneca just hammering the East every opportunity they get this year. So let's bring this Super 6 up here on the screen. There it is. We got Marion sliding in at number 6. Lost at home to Geneva, but are winners of 8 straight since losing to Gananda on December 4th. And they're currently 10-2, tied for second with Lions at 8-1 in Wayne County. Getting the nod over the East teams, Mid-Lakes in Newark, who just really, both those teams had poor weeks. So they'll have a chance to bounce back and get back in the top 6, maybe replace Marion, but like eight in a row for the Black Knights. At 5, we got Jerry's Mynderse squad. They lost at home to Geneva by 4 and then defeated Waterloo 59-44 on Friday night. And we got Gananda, second Wayne County team. They won 2 road games this week at Lions and Red Creek by a combined score of 105-42. And then you have Geneva. They won at Mynderse 53-49. They also beat Newark 59-48. And then at number 2, we talked to Heather Mott at halftime of the South Seneca Naples game on Wednesday night. Head coach, athletic director of South Seneca, and she's really high on her team. They won at Naples on Tuesday. They beat Honeywell on Thursday. Mackenzie Kenyon had a combined 27 points in those games. Bailey Mingus had 9 points against Naples and led the team with 14 against Honeywell. So the South Seneca Lady Falcons given some good story there in South Seneca County. And then number one again for, geez, I haven't counted how many weeks. I think it's 5 or 6 consecutive weeks. We've got Wayne. They beat Midlake 63-43 Friday night. Bailey Pratt had 23 points. Hannah Senilovic had 15. And Mary Peneperito had 7 assists. So there's the top 6. Jerry, any disagreement? You see these teams even more than we do. We base a lot of it out of results, but is that an accurate 6?
You know, I don't know that I could argue much with it. Maybe Mynderse is a little high right now. But, yeah, Wayne's, to me, Wayne has been head and shoulders above everyone right now. Until somebody can beat them, that's where they belong. South Seneca, it's a surprise to some people. It's not a surprise to me. They are a great team. If you go through their schedule, I think they're 8-2 or 9-2. They have a loss to Aquinas and a loss to Victor, right? Both A or AA schools. So Heather does a great job there in South Seneca, and you know, she's still very young. I don't think she loses much. So you've got this year and next year look very promising for her and that team. So. And we've got a big rematch with them coming up on the 16th, so we'll see.
With South Seneca?
Yeah.
Nice.
At home or down there?
It's actually going to be in Waterloo, neutral court.
Really? Is it just that one game?
There's a Finger Lakes Day where we're doing a Jerry Robinson Memorial Day.
Oh, that's right. That's the Jerry Robinson. And what's the other game? Do you know?
There's 4 or 5 different games that day. So
might be something to head up there and webcast, maybe, Burke.
Yeah, have to check out the date. What's the date?
January 16th.
16th. How do you think? What's Wayne's class look like for sectionals? They got a shot in there. They're A.
Yeah, I think Wayne is very guard oriented, and their guards are really good. They've got 2 or 3 sophomore girls coming off the bench that can shoot the 3 and handle the ball well. They've got Batavia in their class. Batavia, is a difficult team as well as Mendon. So. They going into sectionals right now, I'd say they've got to be considered one of the favorites.
And you guys, Mynderse is sitting as a 2 seed right now.
Yep, yeah. In B2, we've got Wellsville at the 1 seed, and we're sitting at the 2, Waco at the 3, and I think Attica at the 4.
Well, that's your Super 6. We'll look at it one more time. And what about, do you have any experience with Gananda? You've seen them?
I do.
I mean, they beat Midlakes really early in there, and that kind of put them on our radar.
Yeah, so they are, handling the rest of Wayne County pretty easily. So they've got a sophomore or junior forward, Demetria Woodard, very athletic. I believe she averages a double-double. And they got some good guard play, so they will make a deep run into sectionals.
They're a C school, I think?
They are C1,
C1.
South Seneca C2.
Yeah, there's some good potential for some great postseason matchups and runs by Wayne Finger Lakes teams on the girls' side, Burke. So that's our Super 6 here for this week. And now it's time to reveal the power rankings for the boys, top 10. No teams dropped out of the poll this week. Midlakes, one team did drop out of the poll this week. Midlakes, 7-4, 2-4 in the league. They beat South Seneca and lost to Wayne this week. They're currently 5th in B1, and they were 8th in our power rankings last week. So they're also receiving votes this week, along with Red Creek, which was really the next team out. They received quite a few votes. Bloomfield, and then Marcus Whitman obviously impressed one voter. They had a vote this week. So bringing it in at 10, there's Wayne hopping back in. They were unranked last week, 6-4 overall. They beat Midlakes and are currently 4th in A2, which is pretty impressive. They're quietly positioning themselves to get a sectional home game, and we haven't. We saw them play against Mynderse at the Arthur L. Baker, but they're young. But I didn't realize, kind of how successful a season they were having sectional point-wise. Geneva in A2 too, but they're way at the bottom. But
yeah, I think that's going to be a tough classification because you got a couple city schools in there who are, they might be 500, But, looking at some scores and stuff like that, they're a good team. So there's not going to be an easy game in that classification. So, wherever they fall, they're probably going to line up with, a city school or something of that nature, or even maybe Geneva. But, in Class A on the boys' side, there's no easy games.
Yeah, at least they can maybe get one at home. So moving at number 9, they stay put. Naples, 9-3 overall. They're ranked 4th in D1 right now. Beat South Seneca this week, Bloomfield in overtime. 8th place, Dundee. They were 7th last week. They dropped despite beating Honeoye by 6 this week. They're currently 6th in C2, and they're standing at 8-2 overall. 7th place, falling 1 from 6, even though they've really been playing great. Clyde Savannah, 7-3 overall, came back to edge Red Creek by 4 at home, and then taking the 6th spot all the way up from 10 is the Penn Yan Mustangs, big movers this week after that Hornell win and the win against Pelmac. And again, Penn Yan 2nd right now in Class B1 standings, and Pelmac 4th, Hornell 1, and Penn Yan beat them all. So the Mustangs surging up the power rankings. 5th, we have East Rochester. They were 5th last week. They beat Gananda this week. Only loss coming at North Rose Wolcott, 8-1 overall. Number 1 right now in Class C1 point standings. So ER at 5, maybe looking to push up even higher. And the big debate was this week what to do with Pelmac after that Penn Yan loss. They dropped from 2 to 4. They're now at 7-4 after that loss to Penn Yan on Friday night. Newark slides up as a beneficiary from 4 to 3. They're 5-1 in the league. They beat Geneva this week in a pretty close game. And then Mynderse also slides up with that Pelmac loss, up from 3 to 2 at 10-2. Wins over Geneva, Port Byron, and Waterloo this week, and then a number 1 for the 3rd straight week, still unbeaten now at 10-0. North Rose Wolcott Cougars. Let's get a look at those power rankings. There they are. Burke, any disagreements?
No, obviously that's tough to, when you're talking about 3 different leagues, tough to put it all together. But I think that's pretty accurate. All those teams are deserving to be up there. And obviously it's going to play out. Some big games coming up. We've talked about Penny and Mynderse. That's going to be a big game for both those teams. Mynderse looking to stay in the hunt, and Penny looking to move up. And Newark is a team that's some hard. They played a good out of league schedule. So you look at their overall record of. I think they were 5-5, but a lot of those losses are to some city schools, and I think they played McQuaid, Wilson, teams like that. So they really challenged themselves, and looking ahead to sectionals, and they got to be happy too to be out of that A classification this year. And I think they'll like their chances a little bit better in B1. ER's having a great year. They beat Clyde beat Mynderse, so it's tough to tell with some of these teams, but very competitive and. Looking forward to the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think kind of like Clyde got a little bit of the shaft here in these rankings this week. They didn't lose any games; they dropped, and in fact, they put up 95 points against Marion and then beat Red Creek, coming just a couple weeks removed from beating Mynderse, who was number 1 at the time in the power rankings, and so still only able to get up to 7. Meanwhile, Penn Yan beats Pelmac, and only kind of jumps up to 6. So yeah. The nice thing is it does all play out on the court, so it's all just talk. Once Penn Yan plays Mynderse this week, that will certainly create or shake things up here, depending on what happens.
Who do you guys got Friday, Mynderse?
Boys played just one time this
year.
year.
You just play once?
Yeah.
Huh. It's just because you got a bye Friday, or is that it?
Played so many games. A lot of these, like Newark, was the same way. They played so many games early on in November. I remember that early college game coming right off the 2 days later than the chiropractic college game. So, Devin, how much do you guys look at these rankings and say, "Oh man, we're number 4 this week. We're number 1 this week"? Do you ever pay attention to it?
Sometimes, not all the time, but.
Does it bother you that you're number 2 and another team's number 1? They happen to be in your same classification. There's a good chance you could play North Rose Wolcott. What do you know about him? Have you seen him play?
I went and watched them against East Rochester.
Oh, you were at
I
that
just
game
read that.
too.
Mhm.
Now that was quite an atmosphere for that game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
How do you think you guys would fare against North Rose if that matchup happens?
I think it'd be a good game. We have to play our best that game. They can rebound, they can score, athletic. So
Yeah, good team for sure. As you guys are. You guys got a great team too. That's why you're 1-2 in the old power rankings. So coming up at about 10:52 a.m. on Sunday morning, that means it's time to take a quick look at the games we're going to be keeping an eye on this week in the Wayne Finger Lakes on Monday night. There it is. Romulus goes for 2 in a row. It's our spotlight game on Monday night. Can the Warriors beat the Black Knights at home and give Coach Joe Peisnack a 2-game winning streak? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to predict Romulus wins that one in a nail-biter. Tuesday night. Now, this is the best night of the week. Number 7 Clyde at number 1 North Rose. That might be a game worth taking a drive up to Wolcott for. And then Newark at Wayne. Big game in the East. That Penn Yan Minders game that we talked about, big game. And then Mid Lakes has a chance to kind of get back into things with a game at Pelmac, and then Pelmac kind of needs to stop the bleeding after that loss to Penn Yan. Dundee, Bloomfield, big game in the West. And then Thursday night, Red Creek at number 1 North Rose Wolcott. That's a game you can watch live on FL1 Sports at 7:30. We're really excited to get up there to North Rose Wolcott for that one. Harold Weber, Michael Alessio, and Spencer Malone calling that one for us. And then Newark Penn Yan. Boy, you want to talk about a chance for Penn Yan to continue their resurgence here into the season after losing Austin Finger earlier in the year to injury. But they get the 2 one-loss teams in the East this week. So sink or swim time. And then Wayne plays Pelmac again, too. So as you can see, especially in the East, some really, really big games. I'm going to ask Burke for you. I want your line on that Clyde North Rose game.
Clyde at North Rose. I think North Rose beats them by 12.
Okay.
I'm not saying that's a line, but I would think that they handle them by double digits.
Yeah, I think it'll be a single-digit game, but I think North Rose pulls it out, especially at home. Clyde,
I was looking at this too. Penn Yan plays tomorrow night, so they got to play Monday and then go to Mynderse Tuesday. So.
Oh, that's unfortunate for them. Who they got on Monday?
Bath. They're at Bath.
Oh, and
which I think they already played them once this year. I don't think Bath is very good this year, but
still they got to go on the road.
Yeah, you don't get a night of prep for Mynderse necessarily.
Yep. So, knowing that, what do you got what's your spread on that Mynderse Penn Yan game?
I like Mynderse by 8.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Moving down later on in the week, that Newark Penn Yan game. What do you think there?
Penn Yan by 2.
Wow. Yeah, it's at Penn Yan, so yeah, we still got the home teams winning, but it's going to be a great week, and that's what happens this time of year. Is these games start to really pick up in intensity as we move closer towards sectionals. So, a quick look at some of the webcasts that we have coming up here on Finger Lakes 1. Like I mentioned, on Thursday we'll be there for Red Creek and North Rose Wolcott, which may be quietly one of the best rivalries in Wayne Finger Lakes. They're kind of up there in the northwest corner of the region. Wolcott, Red Creek neighbors, and it's a big, no matter what sport they play, it's big, but the gym is going to be packed, especially as of last couple of years. These teams have both been good. Red Creek, actually both these teams have not had too much success until recently, and it's going to be big. Big Willie Meyer, Nick Klein and company coming into Wolcott.
Yeah, it's a good game. I think obviously North Rose is, top to bottom, the better team there, obviously. But when you got Willie Meyer and Klein, I was really impressed with Klein. I think he's one of the better guards I've seen this year. So, if he gets hot, you never know.
And then our next 2 webcasts after that, a pair of games involving Mynderse. Mynderse at Newark next Tuesday. Probably one of the marquee games on our whole schedule this year.
Yeah, and that's, that was a game we did last year in Newark, and it was probably one of the worst games that I've ever seen a Mynderse team play.
Yeah, man, it was bad.
We were kind of excited for it, and at the time Mynderse came in, I think Newark was undefeated. Mynderse was a game or two back in the standings, and Newark just totally
throttled them,
totally ripped them apart. So Mynderse is gonna have to go to Newark and and play better, obviously, than they did last year, and because obviously they're two totally different teams, with Newark losing obviously Collins and guys like that, but hopefully Mynderse can fare a little bit better up there.
Intriguing matchup though with Taylor Clements, the 6'7" sophomore, going against Jake Mead and Ben Cafola inside. His hands will be full, and then I almost look at Newark's kids, Jose Santel, Beard, and Brian Sharp, is similar to the Mynderse kids of Devin Anderson and Kellen Carraher and Jake Jones and Brett Anderson. They just they physically they're average size, and they all kind of can shoot the three. They can play good defense, and so it should be a really interesting matchup there.
Yeah, and I think they are similar. They have kids. We've seen Sharp for Newark have big games, and we've seen Beard. A lot of different kids step up, just like with Mynderse. Sometimes it's Devin with 4 or 5 threes. Sometimes it's Jake Jones. Sometimes Anderson. So that should be a good matchup all around.
And then Saturday, January 23rd, will be at the Atwood for Mynderse at Lions. You ever played in the Atwood Gymnasium, Devin?
Yes, I did. My first year on JV in 8th grade.
What did you think of that place, huh?
Yeah.
Did you play at the community center or in the high school?
High school.
High school? Nice.
Yeah, that's I guess playing in a JV game might not be the same level, but I can tell you what, that gym is going to be packed. There's going to be a lot of people from Seneca Falls there. They're going to overflow the normal visitor section. I guarantee you that.
Is that actually still a 6 o'clock start?
I think so. The 2:30 start that got changed is Lions Clyde.
All right.
At Lions at Clyde's at 2:30 on a Saturday afternoon that we're webcasting coming up. But I tell you, that Atwood, when it's packed, it's an unbelievable venue, and I think it's something that Mynderse has to kind of watch out, make sure you don't get rattled, because we saw Lions take North Rose into the fourth quarter at home at the Atwood, and you're talking opposite ends of the spectrum there. And we just saw Lions go win at Bloomfield. So if Mynderse comes in thinking that they're going to have a cakewalk against a 3-8 Lions team, then they could be right for the picking, because that place can get a little crazy. Small court, not much room to maneuver. So something to think about coming up here in 2 weeks. But tons of great games coming up, fellas. I really appreciate you guys stopping in. Devin, best of luck the rest of the season and for the next 2 years. I'm sure this won't be the last time we have you up here. And Jerry, thanks as always for coming in. Good luck to the ladies, and I look forward to seeing what you guys can do in the postseason again this year. Last year was a lot of fun watching you guys capture that sectional title.
Thank you.
And Burke will be back next Sunday, probably 10 o'clock, but watch the front page of the site to Finger Lakes 1 for the exact time. A lot of great games. I don't know where I'm going to go Tuesday night, but I'm going to go somewhere.
You're going to rate the Mynderse.
Yeah, probably. That's probably the place to go, right?
Sure.
That's probably, maybe bring the old. One thing I said we were going to do.
Unless you want to go to Penn Yan and watch Jerry's team play, but that's kind of a.
We're actually Wednesday.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, and we
Wednesday
can do
at
that.
Penn Yan?
Yeah.
Well, then maybe we can hit them both. We got nothing else to do,
so that
right?
works out. You get to see Devin play again. Yeah. Perfect.
So, So great week ahead. Thanks, everybody, for joining us here on the Upstate Hoops podcast on FingerLakes1.tv. We'll be back next Sunday. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher.com, and check out the front page of FingerLakes1.com for the live webcast start time. Until then, for Coach Jerry Anderson and Devin Anderson and my co-host Matt Verke, I'm Jim Sinacropi. Have a great week, everybody.